Well, something a little bit different I'm going to try this time. Instead of engineering, machining and steam engines, it's just another little interest of mine, and that's baking bread. Yep, you heard right, baking bread. It's an interest I've had for quite a few years, and I've baked quite a lot of bread over the years. My mum used to bake a lot of bread, cakes, buns, you name it, she baked everything. And I've always tried to bake my bread like mum used to bake it, and I never could. She never ever weighed anything out, she just put everything in, and that was it. And they always turned out perfectly, her breads. But mum used to really bake tea cakes. Now, round this neck of the wood we call them tea cakes. From where you live you might call them baps, cobs, rolls, but we call them tea cakes round here. And I've always more or less baked tea cakes. I do bread, loaves of bread now and again, wholemeal and white, and I've baked Christmas cakes and other things. It's something I don't, people don't normally know what I do, but I thought this time when I do my tea cakes I'll video it and just show you what other things I can do. Now, I tried for years to get my bread like mum's, and I could never do it because I never knew what materials she weighed out and everything, because as I say, she never weighed anything out. And I used to mix my ingredients like you're supposed to do really, and the dough was sort of easily manageable and soft, and you could roll it and do everything to make your bread or tea cakes. And I could never do it. I could never seem to get the bread right. It was okay, but not really how I would like mum used to do it. And I tried and tried, and then one day I suddenly realised that when I used to watch my mum baking her bread, I noticed that when she was kneading it and doing various things, it was always a little bit sticky. It tended to stick to her fingers, and she'd have a little bit of flour on, and it was just slightly sticky. Whereas my bread wasn't. You could pick it up, roll it, and it didn't stick to your fingers or hands. But mum's always used to have a stickiness. And I thought, I'll try that. I wonder if that's why her bread came out always nice. So the next time I tried it, I added a little bit more moisture, a little bit more water to the mix, and I made it sticky. And when I'd done, they came out perfect. And I thought, I wonder if that's the secret, what mum used to get her tea cakes to be so good. And from that point on, I always make my dough now sticky, and they come out perfect each time. So that's what I'm going to do today. So hopefully everything will turn out okay. So I'll get all my bits and pieces together, and I'll just go through the process of my bread making. Well, I've now got all my bits and pieces together, and this is the flour I'm using. You can use any brand of flour, I suppose. It's a strong white bread flour. If you're going to use wholemeal, well, it's just about the same, recipes exactly the same. But I'm making up 500 grams. I weigh 500 grams out, and then put it into the mixing bowl. That's the first job really, is to weigh out the flour, and that's the first job. Now I do use my small scale here. Get the old glasses on, and we'll set it to the unit, and I always set grams. Yep, there we are, grams. And as I say, it's 500 grams. Now when Mum always used to use fresh yeast. I have used fresh yeast, but it's not all that easy to get these days, and I find the dried yeast in packets that's just as good. So what I do now is just get the 500. I'm going to hash of this, opening this packet. I don't know, I've never done that before. But we'll get 500 grams in there. Don't have to be spot on. But I always stick to the as near as I can to the correct weight. There we are with 500, just over 500 grams, 508 to be exact, and that goes in there. We'll keep the packet handy because we shall need some extra flour. Now the next thing which I weigh out, and it's maybe not what people really want to be doing, but I always use, and Mum always used cooking fat. We use lard. Now I use 2 ounces of cooking fat, just basic common lard. I use 2 ounces. Now you can use oil, and I have used oil in the past, but it's never come out right as I'd like. I don't know, Mum always used lard, so that's all I've ever used, and it's always been okay for me. So now I just need to cut some lard and weigh that, make sure it's 2 ounces, and then it'll be mixed in with the flour. But before I do that, there is something else which you need to put in. Some people might not want to put this in, but it's salt, and you really do need salt for the flavour, to bring the flavour of the bread out. And I always use 1 teaspoon of salt, a heaped teaspoon. And that's the amount, and just sprinkle it in. You can leave the salt out if you don't want salt in, but I always find that if I leave the salt out, it doesn't seem to taste the same. So the next job now is for me to cut the piece of cooking fat and weigh it out. Well, unfortunately, while leaning forward, I pulled the plug out of the camera, so I'm sorry about the sound. Anyway, I'm just weighing out the lard, and as I mentioned earlier, you could use oil, but I've never been really successful with oil. I measured out the 2 ounces, and I always stick to the actual weight. Now, when I've got the amount weighed out, what I shall do is just briefly put the dish in the microwave and soften the lard, because it's been in the fridge and it's quite hard. And one of Mother's specialities was sausage rolls. I've never made any sausage rolls yet, and I keep meaning to have a go at making some. I don't suppose I'll ever make them like Mother used to make, but I'm going to give it a go one day. Well, that's the lard just about measured out now, and I'll just put that to one side for the moment. Right, well, what I do now is to get some warm water, lukewarm, not hot, but it wants to be lukewarm. And I actually make up 300 millilitres. Let's just check. This plastic actually very difficult to see. And there's approximately 300 millilitres of lukewarm water. And the next thing I do is to add a teaspoon of sugar. There again, a heaped teaspoon of sugar, and mix that. And the next thing, I add some of this dried yeast. Now, according to the box, you had 1 packet. Now, I've always added 2, and I found this to be very effective, and it always works perfect. You can add just 1, but at 2 it works every time for me, so that's what I do now. And just add add the yeast, give it a good stir, and as I say, it's lukewarm water is this. Not hot, but lukewarm. Give it a good stir, and what I do now is just put it to one side. And just leave that now for, well, till it ferments. And the next job now is to just microwave the lard and just make it a little bit soft, because it's been in the fridge and it's quite hard. You can mix it straight in, but it makes it hard work really. You're best just softening it. If it's hard, as I say, it just makes it that little bit more difficult to mixing. So I'll just microwave this. Well, I've just microwaved the lard, and it's nice and soft now. It's starting to run, and that'll make it easier to mix up in the flour. And while I'm mixing this, the thing is fermenting there, can't think of the name, yeast. And I just get it mixed in, and then the best way and just mix it thoroughly in with the flour. It really all needs to be to mix. You can tell if there's any lumps, because you can feel them immediately. But just keep mixing until it almost forms like a crumb. And there we are. It just feels like a crummy texture almost. You don't need, well, I don't. I've never sieved flour. Some people do. If there's any lumps in it, but I've never done that. I just put the flour in and mix everything. That's okay. It's a matter now of getting that off my hands. Well, the next stage is the is to add the yeast. Now unfortunately at this point I lost the sound, the connection from the mic to the camera must have come loose. I don't normally use radio mics, but anyway I'll carry on best I can. Now the yeast mix has risen, it's fermented, and that's what I like to see, a nice frothy top on the yeast mixture. And you can use, as I say, fresh yeast and you do it exactly the same way, although you can just mix it directly into the mix. But as I said before, this is probably the best way to add yeast to the mix. Now there's approximately 300 milliliter in this jug. Now sometimes I need to add a little bit more, and it's just judging it by eye really. As I say, I like to get it slightly sticky, and if it's too stiff, which you can easily tell, I just add a little bit more water. Sometimes I don't need to, but on occasions I need to just add a little bit more. I'm adding all of it this time, and I'll just mix it with the old trusty wooden spoon. Just keep mixing. You can mix it, you can use your hands, but I just at early stage I like to just use a spoon. I find it mixes easier. Now I'm adding all the liquid now, and I'll give it a really good stir around. That's the last drop there. Now I was finding it a little bit stiff, so I added a little bit more liquid. And as I say, it's just judging it by eye really. You can tell straight away when you add a little bit more, because it'll start to stick to your hands. Well, the mixture, you don't want too much, otherwise it'll be too wet, and then you've got to start adding flour then. But it's just another little drop, and then I'll continue stirring it until I feel it, and I know it's just right. Now I'm just explaining there that you've just got to get the mixture, as I say, slightly sticky, and once I've rough mixed it, I'll tip it out, and then I'll knead it properly on the top of the worktop. But as I say, it's just judging it, and that's about the consistency I was aiming at. Now you'll need a little bit of flour on your hands to handle this mixture. If you don't, it will be all over the place. What I've done really here is just added a bit of flour to my hands to get it off the spoon. Now I want to turn it out, and I'll start pounding it. I really there you can see it's what I mean about being slightly sticky. It'll just it won't there. That's what I'm aiming for. Just so that it just sticks to your hands ever so slightly. You don't want it dry. There, that's what I mean. It's a little bit hard to judge without actually being there, but it doesn't want to be too dry. It might look dry now, but it isn't. And of course, you've got to add a little bit more flour onto the worktop so it doesn't actually stick down and you won't be able to pull it off. Now, people say that you've got to really knead it for 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, but I never do. I just knead it until I feel that it's had enough. Certainly don't knead it for 10 minutes. and just roll it and fold it, and there, it's sticky, a little bit sticky, sticking to my fingers, and that's what I aim for. And I always get reasonably good results with my bread, having it like that. And I shall keep kneading this for just a short while now, but it won't be 10 minutes to knead, as I say. And then I'll put a little bit of sprinkling of flour back into the mixing bowl, and I shall put the mix back into the bowl, and I'll leave it for about an hour and a half to prove. And you need to put it in a reasonably warm place, airing cupboard if you've got one, or as long as your kitchen's warm, or even near a radiator, and just let it double in size. And there again, another demonstration of the stickiness, what I'm aiming for. If it is too sticky for you, you'll have to just add a little bit more flour and remix. That's getting near now. Where, yep, any little bits left in the bowl will go into the mix. That's it, really. Just a little bit of flour now at the bottom of the mixing bowl, and then that will go back in. You can see how it's sticking a little bit to the worktop, and that will go in there now, as I say, and double in size. It depends how warm your kitchen is, or the area where you're going to put the bowl, how long it takes to rise. But I always aim for it doubling in size. But I always cover it with a tea towel, and I'll just cover with the tea towel, and I'll put this near the radiator, not on the radiator, but near it, so that it rises. I'll give it about an hour and a half. It just depends on how warm your place is, and I'll wait for it to doubling in size, and then I shall carry on. Right, well now it's doubled in size, as you can see, or more than doubled in size, and it's nice and soft and full of air. And what I shall do now is turn this out onto the worktop. Now the first job, get some flour sprinkled down on the worktop, and then empty the contents of the bowl, which is nice and soft and slightly sticky, not overly sticky, as I mentioned. You just get it so it's just about right. There you can see its consistency. Now what I do is probably a little bit unorthodox, and you wouldn't normally do it really, but I just cut small pieces off. I aren't flattening the whole lot, I'm just getting small pieces. I roll them into a ball at the same time I'm flattening the dough and rolling it into a little roughly a ball shape, and then get some flour down again, and then I get mother's trusty rolling pin, and I just roll them out. You don't want to roll them out too thin, it's just judging it by eye. But as you see here, it might look thin, which it was. So what I'll do, I'll just re-roll that, and then put a bit more flour down, and then I'll just roll it out. It's just you don't want them too thin, and you don't want them too thick. I suppose you can do them any size you want, really. If you want them thick, well, you can, and you'll get quite a large tea cake. It'll rise quite thick. And I don't like them. I don't like to roll them out too thick, because they've got to rise again. They've got to be proved again, and that's why you don't want them really too thin. And try and get them in a reasonably circular shape. Not really at all that easy, but you get used to it. There again, I'm doing the same, flattening the dough, and then at the same time rolling it into a ball. And flattening it expels all the air, because it gives it then chance to rise again.
if you didn't flatten them and get rid of the air, you'd tend to get big air pockets, and it wouldn't be right good. You'd have big spaces in your bread, and that's why the bread needs a second proving or second rising, and it stops all these big air pockets, and you get a nice consistency. I'm continuing to do the same now, and I'll do this with all the dough, and then when the trays are all full, they'll be put to one side, covered with the tea towels again, and left to prove again for another hour or an hour and a half. Well, that's the last of them now. I've got them all on the trays, and then as I say, I shall cover these with some clean tea towels, put them to one side, and let them prove again. And I shall leave these till these double in size, and then they'll be ready to go in the oven. Well, they've now risen nicely with the second proving. They've been here just over an hour, and they're now ready for the oven.
Light on. I'll put the second lot in. There we are. Gas mark 6. Right, that'll do.
What's the oven time? It's usually about 20 minutes, 25 minutes I leave these in, and I just wait while they look nice and brown, and I'll take them out and just like this tap the back of them, and they sound firm and hollow, and they're not soft underneath. I know they're done. It's just a matter of keeping an eye open. You might need a bit longer, you might need less. It's just to keep checking. Usually it works for me, does this?
Thank you.
And I've always had success with it.
Well, here we are, out of the oven. These have just come out. These are nice and hot. We'll stand them on the edge like the others, because if you leave them flat, the steam can't escape from the bases. And I find stacking them like this, it stops them going soggy on the base. And there's a few more in the oven, and that's them finished. And the next thing will be to open one up and see what it tastes like, which I know it's going to taste great. And you can't beat freshly baked bread straight from the oven with lashings of butter on.
Well, if you're thinking of having a go at baking some bread, give it a go. There's no mystery to it, and the results can be very enjoyable. Well, I can't resist eating bread straight from the oven, so we'll cut this open and get some butter on. Well, that looks okay to me. It's lovely and soft and fluffy. I'll get some butter on this now. Lurpak, of course. Well, it's not many years ago that the scientists were saying that butter's unhealthy, it's not good for you. And then they did an about turn about it, and now butter is good for you, like cheese and milk. It won't make any difference to me anyway, because I like my butter.
Definitely well worth the effort. Well, I hope you found this of interest, and thank you for watching.